When you're standing in front of a big upholstery project, the biggest question that keeps you from hitting buy now is whether the machine you're about to spend over $1,000 on will actually make the job easier, or just sit in the corner as a pricey paperweight. I've spent a few evenings digging through forum threads, watching a handful of long-form reviews, and even chatting with a couple of small shop owners who use industrial-grade sewing gear every day. What I'm about to lay out is not a laundry list of specs, but a straight-to-the-point look at the Consew 206RB 5 walking foot upholstery machine and the real value it brings to a workshop or home studio. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why a walking foot matters in upholstery. When you're stitching leather, heavy canvas, or thick foam-backed fabric, the material tends to shift under the needle. A standard straight-feed machine will either pull the top layer ahead of the bottom, creating puckering, or it will simply give up and jam. The walking foot on the 206RB5 is designed to feed both the top and bottom layers together, which means you can actually get clean, even seams on stuff like a reclaimed leather armchair or a canvas dining chair without stopping to readjust. That's the practical upside most people focus on, and it's a legitimate one. It cuts the time you'd otherwise spend refeeding the fabric, and it reduces wear on the needle because you're not constantly fighting the feed. Now, the machine comes as a single needle heavy-duty unit, and the triple feed label isn't just marketing fluff. It means the feeding rollers, the presser foot, and the needle bar all work in concert. In practice, this translates to a smoother ride when you're running a 12-inch seam on a thick upholstery cushion. I walked a friend's workshop through a test run on a 3-layer cushion that normally would need a specialist's attention, and the machine kept the stitches uniform from start to finish. For anyone who does a lot of custom furniture work or even just loves tackling large projects at home, that kind of consistency is worth the hefty upfront cost. Who should consider this machine? If you're a professional upholsterer, an interior remodeler, or a hobbyist who already owns a basic domestic sewing machine and finds yourself constantly hitting the limits of needle size and fabric thickness, the 206RB5 fills a clear gap. Its motor is robust enough to handle 40-weight yarn and heavy leathers without stalling, so you won't be left mid-project because the motor can't keep up. Moreover, the included table arrives pre-assembled, which saves a bunch of time that would otherwise be spent fiddling with bolts and alignment. The table also provides a solid, level platform to keep the machine steady, which is essential when you're feeding large panels that can weigh 10 pounds or more. On the flip side, if you're a casual crafter who sticks to lightweight cotton, flannel, or simple quilting, the 206RB5 will probably feel like overkill. The machine is designed for heavy-duty tasks, and while you can certainly run lighter fabrics through it, you'll find yourself not taking full advantage of the walking foot's abilities. In that scenario, a less expensive domestic sewing machine with a standard feed leg would serve you just fine and save you both space and money. Also, keep in mind the physical footprint. The table plus the motor unit occupies roughly 2 meters of floor space. If your workshop is a cramped attic or a small garage, you'll need to make sure you have room to accommodate not only the machine but also the fabric you'll be moving around it. Let's get into some of the more nuanced strengths and weaknesses that come up once the machine is actually in use. One strength is the needle change mechanism. On many heavy-duty machines, swapping a needle is a cumbersome process that can lead to misalignment. On the Consew, the needle bar is designed to lock securely with a simple turn, and the needle sits high enough that you can see it clearly when you're threading. This makes quick changes between a heavy-duty leather needle and a standard leather needle less of a hassle. In real-world terms, that means you can switch from stitching a leather seat to a vinyl back without a prolonged pause, which is a tangible productivity boost during a multi-piece job. A practical weakness that has been mentioned by a few seasoned users is the need for regular oiling of the feed rollers. The walking foot's 3 separate feed rollers require maintenance to keep them running smoothly, especially when you're dealing with tacky leather that can leave residue. If you're not used to routine machine upkeep, you might find yourself dealing with occasional feed hiccups unless you keep a bottle of sewing machine oil handy and clean the rollers after each heavy use. That's not a deal breaker, but it does add a small maintenance step that a hobbyist might overlook. Another point worth noting is the noise level. Because of its powerful motor, the 206RB5 is louder than